여러분 반갑습니다. 2020 서울 혁신 주간에 함께
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2020 Seoul Innovation Week.
오늘 행사
Hello,
맡은
I am Park
박선영입니다.
Sun-young, your MC for today's session.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, good afternoon and good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to Seoul Innovation Week 2020. I am Seonyoung Park, and it's my great privilege to be here with you today as a host for this event. 네, 올해 코로나19가 전 세계를 멈춰 세웠습니다. 서울시는
This year, with the COVID-19 stopping the whole world, the city is hosting 2020 Seoul Innovation Week, and Seoul has been preparing for city's transition to ecological civilization and laying the groundwork for more concrete discussions and practices.
오늘부터 4일간 전
For
세계
3 days from today, we are going to share thoughts and ideas with scholars from around the world on what transformation we will need in the era of climate crisis and inequitable economic growth.
그리고 오늘 행사는 청각 장애인
The event also provides a shared typing service that translates text into sound so that the hearing impaired can see the sound. In addition, we have organized events for more engagement of the public.
오늘부터 시작돼 각 세션마다
And also, if you leave your attendance comment on the YouTube comment section, we will give coffee gifticons to 25 people in each session on a first-come, first-served basis. Names of the winners can be found on the website of Seoul Innovation Week on November 30th after the whole event is over. We look forward to your participation.
네, 지금 이 시간은
Now it is time for the keynote session to
기후
begin.
비상사태와 전환을
You
위한
will be able to hear what countries around the world are thinking and doing to tackle the crisis and to thrive their economies.
2020 서울
2020 Seoul Innovation Week, city transformation, waves of innovation making together. First, let us meet with a video the acting mayor of Seoul, Seoul Vice Mayor Seo Jung-hyuk, for his welcoming remarks.
It is with great pleasure that I extend my warm welcome to those of you joining in on our initiative of City Transition, Making Waves of Innovation Together. I am Seo Jung-hyuk, acting mayor of Seoul. All of humanity is faced with the challenge of a great transition triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic, a transformation in our perspective toward growth, a transition away from an ecosystem centered around fossil fuels, a transition that will take us beyond today's customs and norms, culture and value system that we have become so used to. We must achieve these great transitions in order to guarantee the very survival and happiness of humanity, currently faced with the threat of climate emergency and a collapse in our ecosystem. The SMG has long been working to develop momentum to drive this new transition by applying methodologies of social innovation that focus on sharing, regeneration, democracy, and a circular economy to our city administration. This year, we have introduced the Seoul Green New Deal as we seek to make our grand transition toward a carbon zero society and economy, aiming for net zero greenhouse emissions by 2050. Harvard professor Edward Gleiser called cities our greatest invention yet that can lead to prosperity for all of mankind. Cities must become the epicenter for practice and action, a hub in the evolution of our civilization as a center for endless exchange of people and knowledge. As our civilization confronts this crisis full on, now is the opportune time to embark on transition, as the time and opportunity for innovation is right now. We hope that the 2020 Seoul Innovation Week will be a meaningful chance for all the principals, the stakeholders of transition, such as government, business, civic groups, and academia, to explore and share innovative ideas and experiences in overcoming the crisis as we seek a sustainable future for all. The Seoul Metropolitan Government will make a point to reflect the strategies, insight, and declarations from this significant event in our city administration so that we can serve as a stepping stone in our green transition.
권한대행의 환영의 말씀이었습니다.
That was the welcoming remarks by Acting Mayor Mr. Seo Jung-hyuk. I believe that today's session is going to be a very good opportunity for all of us to learn more about what is going to be the right future for all of us. Now,
옥스퍼드 대학교 환경변화 연구소의 연구원이자 이 도넛경제학 액션랩의 공동 설립자이기도 한 케이트 레이워스가 우리의 도시 서울은 도넛경제 모델 범위에서 살 수 있을지, 서울만의 도넛경제 사회는 가능한지에 대해서 얘기해 주실 예정입니다. 케이트 레이워스의 발표 영상으로 만나보시겠습니다.
Hello, I'm Kate Rayworth. It's my pleasure and honour to join you for Seoul Innovation Week. I want to talk about whether Seoul can be a city that lives within the donut, the one donut that turns out to be good for us. But first, I want to step back to look at how the 21st century has begun, because it has begun with repeated crises. From financial meltdown in 2008, we are living in an era of climate and ecological breakdown, and most recently, nations experiencing COVID lockdown. And these crises hit with sharp inequalities of gender and race, of wealth and power, of global north and global south. And they arise out of the very systems that we have created. So we need a new vision of what human prosperity looks like in the 21st century. And for this, I offer you a donut. The aim here is to leave no one falling short on the essentials of life in the hole in the middle of the donut. Falling short on food, water, healthcare, housing, education, political voice, gender equality. And these 12 social dimensions I have crowdsourced from the world's governments through the Sustainable Development Goals. It means that all the governments in the world have already agreed that all people in the world have a claim to meeting these essential needs. So leave no one in the hole, but at the same time we cannot overshoot the ecological ceiling, because there we put so much pressure on the life-supporting systems of this planet that we push our planet out of balance. We cause climate breakdown. We acidify the oceans. We create a hole in the ozone layer and critical loss of the web of life. And these are the 9 planetary boundaries recognized by Earth system scientists just 1 decade ago. So the aim here is to meet the needs of all people within the means of the living planet, to bring humanity into a safe and just space for humanity where we can thrive in balance. But if thriving in balance is our goal, we are very far from that right now. All of the red in this image shows you the extent to which people are falling short on the essentials of life, and we are simultaneously already in overshoot. In the middle of the circle, the red wedge on food goes 11% of the way to the center of the circle, because 11% of people worldwide don't have enough food to eat every day. We want to eliminate all of the red in the middle of the picture, leaving no one facing deprivation. But while that deprivation endures, we have already overshot at least 4 of these planetary boundaries on climate change, excessive fertilizer use, land conversion, and biodiversity loss. This image, I say, is humanity's selfie. It's a portrait of our generation in these early days of the 21st century. And no generation before us saw it. So why would we expect their economic theories and governmental policies and business models to solve this challenge? They weren't designed to solve this challenge. We need to come up with theories and policies and business designs of our own, and that is why we need innovation in every sphere. This shows you the global donut of the whole of humanity. But what if we bring it down to the national level? Researchers at the University of Leeds have created 150 national donuts. Here are just 3. Bangladesh, you can see, is falling far short on meeting the needs of its people, putting hardly any pressure on those planetary boundaries. At the other extreme, the United States is nearly meeting the needs of all of its people. It should be succeeding on that very easily because it's one of the world's richest countries. But it's massively overshooting on those planetary boundaries, using carbon emissions, land use, fertilizer, materials that are imported from around the world to meet the consumption demand of Americans. And then in the middle, China, like many nations, is simultaneously falling short on meeting people's needs and already in overshoot on planetary boundaries. Of course, you are wondering where your own country comes. So here is Korea. Slightly falling short on meeting people's needs, but already very significantly overshooting planetary boundaries. So how can we put these countries in context? Here is 150 nations in the world. The sweet spot is the top left-hand corner, where we meet the needs of all people within the means of the planet. But as you can see, there are no countries close to achieving that yet. In fact, every country needs to transform and move in a different direction. Here is Korea. But we all need to move on an unprecedented journey towards the donut. So I say no country can call itself developed today. We are all developing countries on unprecedented journeys towards the safe and just space for humanity. What if we bring this down a level from the nation of Korea to the city of Seoul? What happens when Seoul meets the donut? We are inviting ambitious 21st century cities to ask themselves this question. How can Seoul be a home to thriving people in a thriving place while respecting the well-being of all people and the health of the whole planet? Let me give this to you in the 4 essential questions for modern cities. What would it mean for the people of Seoul to thrive? What are the values, the aspirations, the culture that people see as a good life? And where are they today in comparison to that? Add to that, what would it mean for Seoul, the city, to thrive within its natural habitat? Where on planet Earth is your city located? And how is nature functioning where you live? How does nature sequester carbon dioxide and store groundwater and house biodiversity and cool the air? And what if your city could match or exceed the performance and generosity of the wildland next door? So both of these are local aspirations to be thriving people in a thriving place. But we have to set that in the context of global responsibility. What would it mean for Seoul to respect the health of the whole planet? To ensure that all the food and consumer goods and clothing and electronics and construction materials that are imported into your city are within your city's share of impact on planetary boundaries? How can you reduce that footprint upon the world? And then think of the people involved in those supply chains, the people who stitch and sew the clothes, who pack and pick the fruit, who mine and dig and ship the materials. What are the labour conditions for those people? And how can your city, through its purchases, respect their rights and the rights of their communities? I invite you to dive deep into these questions and ask what kind of innovations would make this possible, because these are the innovations that the world needs. We have run workshops on city donuts in several cities, Portland, Philadelphia and Amsterdam, and city policymakers there found the framework very valuable in having a holistic picture of the interconnections between multiple perspectives that never normally get connected. So if you're interested in diving into donut economics, you can, of course, read the book. But millions of people are more interested in acting than merely reading. And we've encountered change makers the world over who have taken the ideas of donut economics and started putting it into practice. So we have launched Donut Economics Action Lab. It's an online platform. We invite every one of you to join the community if you are interested in turning the ideas of this book into transformative action. On our platform, there are ideas from the Maori community in New Zealand to Costa Rica to Amsterdam to Copenhagen. And we invite you to bring yours too. And so I hope this donut inspires you to innovate, to bring humanity and your city into the safe and just space in which we all can thrive, because that is the innovation that we need. Thank you.
네, 케이트 레이워스께서 또 지조 세션의 첫 번째 발표 진행을 해주셨습니다. 이 공정함과 경제 성장의 균형, 이 모든 나라의 과제가 된 것 같은데요. 네, 이제껏 갖고 있던 우리의 번영과 발전에 대한 생각들 조금은 바꿔볼 수 있는 그런 시간이 아니었나 싶습니다. 자, 기후 위기와 전환을 위한 경제
We are having this keynote session, and now we would like to invite our second presenter.
탄소 중립 순환 경제 전문가 나니 파주넨이 준비하고 있습니다.
Ms. Nani Pazunen, Citra and specialist in the carbon neutral circular economy, and we'd like to meet her with our video.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, good morning and greetings from Finland. My name is Nani Pajunen. I'm working as a leading specialist in the Finnish Innovation Fund, Sitra. In my presentation, I will focus on the transition towards carbon neutral circular economy. Where are we now? We have only one planet, planet Earth. Global economy is based on overusing natural resources of this one planet. When we talk about the transition towards carbon neutral circular economy from the linear economy, we talk about huge changes in every sector of the society. What does it mean in industrial networks, in energy system, food system, trade, education, and in our everyday life as well? More than 75% of the people are going to live in the big cities in the future. Why this is important? Actually, it's vital for the future how we plan these cities, the areas we are living in the future. Is it even possible to take carbon neutral circular economy solutions used in these areas we are living? More than 50% of the natural resources are used in the construction industry. So it's also vital for the future how to take carbon neutral circular economy solutions in use in construction industry. More than 60% of the CO2 emissions are coming out from the different material processes in worldwide. Less than 10% of the material are recycled back in use. So we really need to make huge changes in recycling of materials. We are talking about sustainable future, but at the same time, we have a history of humankind. We have different kind of mixed materials, different kind of products produced ever in humankind history. So we need to understand that all of these materials, all of the products are coming in the end of life phase someday. We need to find solutions also for those materials, how to recycle them back in the use in future. We need to learn from the past. If we see that there are some difficulties in recycling phase, what can we learn from those? How we develop new materials, design new products so that those are easier to recycle in the end of life. And how we design products so that we can repair those, and those are long lasting. Here in the middle, you can see the life cycle. Natural resources are going through different kind of industrial processes to products, to use, and in the end of life, they are starting a new life, a new life cycle. We need to make changes in every phase of this life cycle. New business models, sharing platforms, product as a service, take-back systems. And what is the role of energy, trade, digitalization and data, and education and research? We need different kind of drivers. In European Union, we have really good environmental policy environment. We have action plan how to go towards circular economy. In national level, we have a national roadmap towards circular economy. At the moment, we are working with a national program of circular economy. We need new kind of environmental management systems, how to measure the change. We need know-how, skills, data, information, that we have this data when we make decision towards circular economy future, that we know enough, that we understand what kind of changes we need to do. I strongly believe that we all have equal rights to be part of this change. And for that we need education. We need new kind of skills, know-how and knowledge. We have different kind of professionals also in the future. But I believe that all of those professionals will be circular economy specialists as well. I have picked some experience from Finland, what we have done here. In 2016, we have published a roadmap towards circular economy. It was not only a strategy paper, policy paper, but it was an action plan, how to make this transition happen here in Finland. We have had different kind of collaborative projects with public and private sector. How we make circular economy happen here in Finland. And of course, when we talk about industrial network and trade, it's never only a national projects. It's always global. We have also published a guidebook about the learnings, what we learn here in Finland. Can we help other countries to make a roadmap towards circular economy in your country? We are happy to share all of the results, all of the learnings with other countries. We have had really nice collaboration with the education field here in Finland, with teachers. We have created different kind of circular economy courses in different level of Finnish school system. From the year 2019, we have had circular economy courses in every level of the Finnish school system. Courses are from the different perspectives. There are art, business, chemistry, construction, food, just name it. It's important to integrate circular economy in education. We have also published a playbook how to integrate circular economy business models in your everyday business. We have also listed inspiring examples from those companies who has already these circular economy businesses in their everyday business. We have also listed a worldwide list what kind of examples of circular economy business we can show these cases that some of the companies are already there in the carbon neutral circular economy. And you can learn from those. We have had also really nice close collaboration with the eco-industrial parks, not only national level, but international level as well. We have published guidelines how to establish an eco-industrial park in your country. What are the findings here in Finland, in Nordic, in EU? How to get funding to create new solutions, how to make collaboration, new kind of collaboration between companies or with a research field, and so on. In the built environment sector, we asked, how do you see? What does carbon neutral circular economy, what does it mean in the built environment sector? What are the targets you want to set to yourself, and what are the actions, how to go there. We have had really nice and close collaboration here in Finland in the construction industry. From the individual perspective, we also want to help all of us how to find our way to live in a more sustainable way. We have published a tool where all of us we can count our carbon footprint. We have also published the list 100 ways to act more smart and sustainable way, how to live in more sustainable way in the future. The World Circular Economy Forum is the place that we want to share our common target worldwide. It's a place where we can together discuss about sustainable future. We can share the findings, solutions. We can together create something new. I warmly welcome all of you to join the next World Circular Economy Forum next year in Canada. So, what we are targeting? We are targeting good life, good sustainable life, where all of the sectors of the society are acting in carbon neutral circular economy way. They have different kind of solutions in use. It's a good life. It's a new normal. We as an individual, we are living good life in sustainable city where the food, energy, products, businesses, education are already living in a carbon neutral circular economy society. Thank you.
네, 나니 파조네님께서 두 번째 발표 진행을 해 주셨습니다.
Yes, thank you very much, Specialist Nani Pajunen. And
이 핀란드의 얘기를 들어보면서
we were able to hear about the cases in Finland, and we were able to get more understanding about carbon neutral circular economy society that we would like to have in the future. Now, let us have our third presenter of the session. He is one of the most renowned intellectuals and is currently leading social change in China. Professor Won Tae-jun of Renmin University of China. He will be presenting on the urban-rural integration for eco-sustainability. Please meet him on the screen.
大家好，我是温铁军。
Good morning. My name is Won Tae-jun. It is my pleasure to present at this conference thanks to the request from our friend in Seoul. The title of my presentation today is Promoting Sustainability of Eco-Civilization through the Fusion of Urban and Rural Areas. As you're well aware, China is at an important juncture of transformation in its development strategy. We are moving away from the era of industrial civilization that existed for over 100 years to a new era of ecological civilization in the 21st century. In order to realize this shift in strategy, the urban and rural fusion strategy must be promoted. Allow me to explain this strategy. The first thing I would like to talk about is how China changes its strategic direction from urbanization to the development of urban and rural integration. In the past, the process of industrialization was a cumulative development through domestic demand-driven self-development. And in this process, the accumulation of capital in cities was made possible by excess consumption of urban production in rural areas. So in the 1950s, agriculture in China contributed to urban industry and urban expansion. This is how capital was accumulated in the early stages of industrialization. As a result, rural areas played a major role in industrialization taking root in the People's Republic of China.
到1997年东亚金融危机爆发，
Following the Asian financial crisis in 1997, China suffered relative overproduction for the first time in 1998. Although there was a still strong demand in China, development transition to an export-type industrial structure was taking place in the 1990s. And in 1997, when foreign demand fell due to the Asian financial crisis, overproduction was caused with a decrease in foreign demand in China. Since then, China has begun to change its strategy that allows investment to drive growth. And the main source of investment was government bonds and state-owned financial assets. At the end of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century, China entered a period of rapid urbanization development. Cities as a space to absorb massive investment was a main target of investment. And then into the 2010, after more than a decade of urbanization in China accelerated even more rapidly than the previous decade. If you look at statistics through to 2020, China's urbanization rate has progressed more than 60%, which means that of the 1.4 billion population, 840 million people, or 60% of the population, have already been included in the urban population, which is the largest in the world. However, urbanization has destroyed the ecological environment, caused air pollution, and led to excess use of energy and raw materials. In addition, the urban cities had stood out aesthetically with magnificent high-rise buildings made of cement and reinforced concrete. In the first 20 years of the 21st century, cities have become an important direction for development and have seen the rapid increase in real estate capital. Real estate properties have absorbed a lot of capital and generated high debts in many fields, including government, corporate, and personal debt. If China continues to promote the current urbanization development strategy, many of its economic problems will not be solved. The COVID-19 crisis has taught us an important fact, which is that the city is the main affected area of the pandemic. The virus had spread mainly in cities. About 600 million people are living in rural areas in China, and it is natural to think that rural areas would suffer the major damage from COVID-19 since they do not have quarantine facilities, including hospitals and physicians. And China has an average floating population of 300 million. Indeed, many of them returned home during the Chinese New Year season, and the COVID-19 surged right at that time. And yet, it hardly occurred in rural areas. Rural people didn't even wear masks, but the epidemic didn't spread severely there. That has much to do with the natural environment in rural areas and the lifestyles of people there. It's an objective observation and is directly linked. Well, China was paying the price of rapid urbanization at the onset of the pandemic, and during this pandemic, it has been revealed that rural communities play a very important role as a place for people to live. It is true that people living in rural areas were hardly infected by the virus. If you look at it by region, we can see that the virus has disappeared, especially in regions with diverse natural and eco-environment such as highlands and mountains. People living there did not really feel the threat of the pandemic. Conversely, If you look at it, densely populated areas and large cities with narrow living spaces and lack of basic eco-environment were hit hard by the COVID-19. It is time to think objectively about what is the safest environment for us. And it is rural areas where human life and the nature are well connected with one another. Against this backdrop, at the 5th plenary session of the 19th CCP Central Committee, which ended on October 29, 2020, urbanization development was not emphasized. Instead, more emphasis was placed on the development of rural areas through the fusion of urban and rural areas. This is because China is contemplating on ways to maintain the sustainable development of eco-civilization in the 21st century. In recent years, China has been strategically changing its key development directions. It is a transition from the era of industrial civilization and rapid urbanization to a new era called eco-civilization. It is to shift to a new development strategy that focuses on building rural and eco-environment as the main investment goals. This will lead to an overall change in China, socially, economically, and politically. And then the entire economic structure of China, a supercontinental country, will be driven by the rise of Qinghai Tibet Plateau, the third pole of the world. Maintaining the past economic, social, political, cultural, and historical continuity in line with the geographic environment. The reason why China put special emphasis on the great revival of the Chinese people's civilization in order to develop into an eco-civilization is that it is the revival of agricultural civilization that has existed in rural communities for the past 10,000 years. This is also the structure that makes the promotion of rural communities the foundation for ecological civilization that we are currently emphasizing. When China changes its strategic direction, it must develop an overall structure, and the structure is about promoting a strategic transformation into an eco-civilization based on the development of rural communities. I would like to conclude with an important point. As everyone knows, if China pursues rapid globalization, capitalizing on vast industrial and financial capital, it may result in the exclusion of China from the United States and the Western world, or hard decoupling to a large extent. At the same time, in the Western world, exodus from China will likely emerge. Even in such a situation, as China is a very large continental country and has the potential to be closely related to vast rural areas, rural life, and eco-environment, through a new direction to develop this vast continental eco-resource as a space resource, China can implement the twin cycle development strategy with its current domestic demand cycle. And this is the main reason for promoting urban and rural fusion development as a strategy to respond to the challenges of the world. If the US is forcefully decoupling China, and if we can smoothly promote a new rural development strategy based on urban and rural integration, I believe that the sustainable development potential of Chinese ecological civilization will be realized, even if it is with condition. Thank you.
네, 원태진 교수님께서 세 번째 발표 진행을 해 주셨습니다. 이 세계 수준에서
Thank you very much, Professor Won Tae-jun of Renmin University of China. We were able to see what has to happen between the rural and city areas. Now, it's a platform to discuss the transformation of the city into a healthy and innovative one, Seoul Innovation Week. Now is the time for the last presenter of the keynote session today. To make the right transformation, The society, the economy, and the local communities must be able to join forces together. Regarding that, Secretary General Gianluca Salvatore of the Fondazione Italia Sociale is going to present.
Hello everyone, and thank you for the invitation to speak to this forum. It's an honor to share some thoughts with you. My intervention will focus on the social economy and its role, especially in local development. Let me start showing you 5 pictures. These are empty squares representing my country, Italy, during the lockdown. For an Italian, these are shocking images. We are used to crowded squares. Urban spaces are the real heart of our social life. COVID-19 has deeply torn the fabric of our national community. During the lockdown, we have experienced physical distancing in contrast to social habits which in my country are strongly based on proximity between people. We had to reduce immobility between places in a country where families are often spread across different regions. The link between places and social relations has dramatically changed due to the obligation to stay at home. Deserted cities and confinement in homes are an experience we heard about from our grandparents during the World War II. But for our generation and the following ones, they have been a shocking novelty that has challenged established models of life, both in social and economic terms. COVID-19 has produced a deep impact with long-lasting effects. Among them, a more acute awareness of the importance of public policies as a necessary condition to guarantee social and economic well-being. This shift is changing the framework within which institutional, economic, and social actors interact in at least 3 major ways. The first is that the pandemic has undermined the aspiration of the for-profit enterprises to replace the state in taking care of people's well-being. Indeed, especially since the 2008 crisis, the world of for-profit companies have been developing a powerful narrative. Instead of insisting on the primacy of the shareholder and the maximization of profit, the mantra of corporate social responsibility has taken hold. Businesses, it was argued, can tackle issues of environmental and social sustainability more effectively than public institutions. Their ability to obtain results could find a solution to the greatest challenges of our time, combining the needs of profit with those of social impact. From welfare to education, from gender inclusion to innovation in social services, the commitment of socially responsible companies can make a difference on every topic. This is the message that the leaders gather in Davos, the CEOs of the Business Roundtable, the leaders of large corporations committed to redefining the purpose of their companies have sought to convey in recent years. Then came the pandemic, and the world suddenly appeared in a different light. The role of for-profit enterprises in taking care of social well-being has no longer been at the center of the discussion. National and European institutions have taken back space and power because it has become clear that in the face of a collective emergency, what is needed are collective institutions. Which bring us to the second observation. The pandemic in many countries had the effect of bringing public action back to the forefront, reminding us that we have entrusted our governments with the authority to stop a business, close schools, freeze social life, and confine us indoors in our own interest. All tasks for which the market and its rules are not suitable. The COVID-19 emergency has brought back to the fore the role of public health and the importance of care and assistance services accessible to all. It showed the need for public subsidies to counter the effects of the economic crisis. it scaled back the presumption that private companies could act in the name of the public interest. However, there is a third observation emerging from this pandemic. While it's true that market forces have shown their limits and the role of the state and public institutions has appeared fundamental, on the other hand, we have seen how indispensable the role of communities and civil society can be. The measures taken by public authorities have been effective not so much for fear of sanctions, but in general for people's civic sense. People have accepted limitations on their freedoms in the name of the common good. Fear for the health of the elderly and the most vulnerable has aroused a profound sense of solidarity, fueled by the idea that the commitment of each individual has the power to affect everyone's health. In the midst of the emergency, people have rediscovered civic virtues and beyond formal compliance with the law have behaved in a socially responsible way, also by engaging in voluntary activities, performing acts of solidarity, supporting social economic organizations. The time of the pandemic is an exceptional training ground for grasping the importance of an approach that is not solely oriented towards profit or is based exclusively on the exercise of public authority. Indeed, this period has made it clear that the space between the state and the market is not purely marginal, but plays an essential function. When the effect of public subsidies will end, the role of social economy in countering the loss of jobs will be decisive, as had already happened after the 2008 crisis. Many of the services that are essential to people's well-being, from healthcare to education, can be produced, and indeed are already produced, by social economy organizations. The need to enhance health, social care, and education services will offer great opportunities for further development of the social economy. One of the effects of the pandemic will probably be the acceleration of the transition from a vision of welfare centered on the state to a vision centered on the whole society, in the so-called welfare society. The production of care and assistance services will be distributed among a plurality of different actors, among which a crucial role will be played by the organizations of the social economy. That is, organizations that produce economic goods with the main purpose of satisfying needs of general interest, maximizing social impact rather than profit. To get out of this crisis, we need an approach to designing goods and services that actively involves users, starting from a meticulous knowledge of the communities to which they are addressed. The ability of social economy to include a variety of actors in the design of social and general interest services, enhancing their skills and resources, will be crucial. Not so much according to a restorative logic, which intervenes only on situations of social hardship and marginalization, but rather in a broader and deeper perspective of development based on the balance between the social and the economic dimensions. For this reason, in Europe, a discussion is currently underway to define an action plan for the social economy as an engine of fair and sustainable development. In recent decades, the European Union has successfully fostered the development of a competitive market economy based on the liberal principles of competition and the pursuit of profit. Nowadays, also in light of the situation highlighted by the COVID-19 emergency, it is essential that an equally strong commitment is dedicated to developing a robust vision of the social economy as a fundamental component for the development of Europe, favoring a greater pluralism of economic forms and organizational models. In other words, the time has come for the social economy to step out of the shadows and be recognized as one of the pillars for the development of our future societies, as a structural element of the economic social model. This recognition, for which we must fight, represents, in my opinion, the most important social innovation of the next decade. Just as I opened by showing you the photos of empty squares, I would like to conclude by showing you a photo that, on the contrary, portrays a moment of conviviality, with the hope of returning to stay close and overcome distances. Because social sustainability matters, and the pandemic is a tragic opportunity to bring that into focus. It is social cohesion that makes our cities work. Social capital is the foundation of economic development. Even the concept of innovation at the center of this week today is no longer based on the discovery of the single genius, but is born from a team effort according to a deeply social logic. For this reason, it is so important to bring the social dimension back to the center of our idea of economic development. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. We have had 4 presentations during the keynote session for 2020 Seoul Innovation Week. I imagine that those joining us online will have some questions and also some comments as well. So now then we will begin our discussion and Q&A session with all of our speakers.
If you have any questions, please raise them and be very proactive in giving your questions. And now I would like to invite Professor Chung Kyung-hwa of Hanshin University, and I'll see you all a bit later. Thank you.
네, 반갑습니다. 서울 혁신주간 기조발제 토론을 함께할
Good
한신.
morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chung Gun-hwa, professor of Hanshin University, and I am the moderator of the session today.
주제로 발제를 해주셨습니다.
Well, we have been able to hear presentations related to proper transformation post-COVID-19, and now we would like to have more in-depth discussions based on the questions provided to our presenters.
모두 토론에 참가해 주시면
Well, I wished that all our presenters engage in our discussions, but there is this time lag between Korea and Europe. And so today we have been inviting 2 speakers and also one Dr. Ms. Nani Pajunen is going to provide her answers and responses related to the question we provided in advance. And what I asked to Ms. Nani Pajunen was that, as you can see in Finland, there is more or less a city assembly called Sitra, and they provide policies related to circular economy in Finland and provide a lot of education training and having a lot of collaborations with other countries as well. So Ms. Nani Pajunen is with Sitra, and in order to drive circular economy in Finland, what attempts have been made in the private, civic, and public sectors, and also what kind of government support has been provided on this end. And that was the question we provided earlier before. And not only this, but also, as you can see, implementing circular economy is a daunting task because it is somewhat different from market economy, because producers
아니라
in charge of production, but not just that. A producer has to understand the entire cycle of economy, not just the producer, but also the user and consumer side. They need to be able to understand the overall picture of how circular economy works. So education is a very important piece to that as well. So related to that, I gave a question to her. And also, well, zero emission is one of the goals in circular economy. And what are those important elements in achieving zero emission for circular economy? So we would like to hear from her what her feedback related to these questions first through the video. And after that, we would like to entertain your questions with our Professor Won Tae-jin of Renmin University of China and also Secretary General Salvatore in our panel discussion.
Thank you for the question. So what we have done here with the individuals, public organizations, with the companies, we have published a roadmap how we make the transition towards circular economy here in Finland. At the moment, we are working with a national program led by Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Economy, how to make a national program towards carbon neutral circular economy. We have published a playbook how to integrate circular economy business models in businesses of the companies. We have also published 100 ways to be smart and sustainable for us as an individual. So what is the role of the Finnish government? I think the most important is to have a common target, that we work together towards sustainable future. Of course, government, they can give policies, legislations, and so on, funding, money for education, and so on. But I think the most important here is the common target, that we feel that we are together here and we really want to work together towards sustainable future. About the education, I see the circular economy education, it's really a vital part of this transition. From the year 2019, we have had circular economy education in every level of the Finnish school system. I believe that we all have equal rights to be part of this change towards sustainable future. And we need skills, know-how and knowledge. That's why education is really important part of this change. So about the transition, we not only need a strategy or policy papers, but we also need action plan. We really need to make the change. So we need to have common target. We need to have plans how to go there. Do we understand what is our target? We also need to follow up the change. We need to start actions, learning by doing, and share all of the results, all of the learnings, all of the findings. And we need to have close collaboration between private and public sector. About the collaboration, I strongly believe that we need to have really new kind of collaboration between public and private sector and with the third sector as well. Between individuals, between different professionals, and we need to learn from each other. We need all of the skills and knowledge and know-how in use when we create sustainable future. Question about circular economy and carbon neutral society. I see that this is a common target. We need to solve huge challenges: climate change, biodiversity loss, and overusing natural resources. I think carbon neutral circular economy is a solution for all of those. At the same time, we need to find carbon neutral solutions. We need to recycle more materials. We need to use less. So all of these things we need to solve at the same time. And the time is now. So where are we now? I have studied natural sciences. I'm an engineer. I have been more or less worked the whole working career with the environmental issues. I see that we are on a good way. A lot of good things has happened in previous years, but at the same time I see that there are so many things to do and really difficult decisions to make. I really want to work hard for the sustainable future, and I see that more and more professionals are joining this network, and I'm really happy to say that I strongly believe that we are on a good way, and we really need to work hard. And carbon neutral circular economy, sustainable future will be a new normal. Thank you.
네, 감사합니다. 나니 파주넨 박사는 소개한 대로
Thank you very much, Dr. Nani Pajunen.
베이스의 또 환경
She has engineering base and she majored in city planning as well, and she would like to pursue a planned approach to the development of circular economy.
선정한 것은
The reason why we choose this one, the first topic to be dealt with, is because the introduction of a circular economy has not been in full-fledged in Korean society. However, when I look at it, when it comes to market economy, I believe that it can be a good alternative or alteration to our existing market economy. And I believe that it is an idea and policy direction, circular economy, for the alternative to market economy. And I believe that the cases of Citra have been very useful and instrumental for us. And a lot of people, I hope that a lot of people have a special interest in participating in the Citra Forum to be held next year in Canada. And now we would like to have discussions with Professor Won Tae-jin and Secretary General Gianluca. Well, previously in his presentation, Professor Won talked about the integration between rural and urban areas for eco-sustainability as an idea for our city transformation. And also, Secretary General Salvatore talked about the limitations that we have.
Talked about the role of the socio-economic organizations, how they will see a renewed, enlarged role during the post-COVID era as the limitations of the other public and also market sectors emerged.
Yes, Professor Won Tae-jin is very renowned in Korean society as well, and he published a very popular book called The Leap Forward for 100 Years, and it was widely appreciated in Korea as well. And, well, he was dealing with the development of the industry, urban and rural areas. And when we think about civilization in the past, which was focused very much on fossil fuels, and now we are looking to a different type of urbanization in the future based on ecological environment. So now I would like to give this question to Professor Won Tae-jin. And as far as I know, Korean society, the urbanization rate is around 80%. And there are a lot of social problems that we have: air pollution and job loss. And also we are susceptible to infectious disease contamination and so on, especially in the city areas. And I believe that we will be able to improve our self-containment based on rural and urban area integration. And we were able to hear from him related to the lessons we can get from the Chinese case. And if it is possible, we would like to get some advice on Korean city and urban policies based on his experiences and knowledge, and what is going to be the role of the local government in strengthening self-containment here. And also, as Mr. Salvatore said, there are a lot of roles to be played by collaboratives in local community levels and so on. So what is going to be the role of the civic society and the government on this end?
Hello, everyone. I'm a friend of Korea, and I've been several times in Seoul and also in the countryside in different places. So, but in China, I think that I'm just a resource person. We mobilize the people to set up a kind of program to make the citizens have their own garden in the suburban area. So that is a so-called CSA, Community Support Agriculture. And there are now more than thousands CSA farm in the city area, not only in Beijing, but also Shanghai and Shenzhen and many mega cities. By the people, you know, they invest for their food safety by themselves. And then that is the citizens' agriculture in suburban area now become more popular. Not only the special program for the citizen set up the agricultural safety for themselves, we also try to set up the local program and helped by the local governments. We are trying to make these middle class in cities going down to the countryside to have their own agricultural production in countryside, also have the so-called real estate joined by the rural people. And then, so that is practically, we did have so many local programs sponsored by the local governments. And then welcome these citizens go down to the countryside, live with the rural people together. So this is many new phenomena happening in China. And if you go to Zhejiang, and you can see that maybe thousands citizens now live in village. The population even bigger than the original villagers. So, and these are the big change. And originally the people, they moved from the countryside to the urban area. Now a lot of citizens move to the countryside. So that is a very interesting social movements nowadays in China. We are also trying to regenerate our local culture. And that is a so-called majorities in the countryside. They built up their traditional performance. They regenerate their cultural events. And then to make the base for that's the base for absorb the social investments from the cities. I mean, not only the economic affairs, but also the cultural affairs all become a very interesting area for absorb the citizens going down to the countryside. So that is a very interesting phenomenon nowadays, happening more and more popular in China. We are now also have a lot of young people. They are graduated students. Now when they finish their studies in the college or in the university, they mobilize themselves going down to the countryside because that there is a kind of space for their small business. So if you go to these villages, you can find a lot of young people nowadays in countryside to run their small business. It's somehow like a bookstore or like a kind of so-called the coffee shop or something. So they became a kind of small or mid-sized enterprise and also became a kind of social enterprise. These young people and also the citizens going down to the countryside, they built up a kind of new economy. Many you can think that they are the social entrepreneurs. It's not exactly for the private interest. It's for the inclusive growth, for the rural-urban sustainability. So this is a new social movement nowadays. But originally it's very difficult. In the 15 years ago when we started to try to bridge the urban and the rural, and few people would like to join us. I remember that when we set up the first CSA farm in suburban area in Beijing, that is only 57 citizens family join us. And it's a very small one. But 3 years later, we became 400 or 500. That means 400 or 500 citizens family join our program. And then 5 years later, we became 1,000. So that is became more and more large. So such kind of social movements, we are in name of the rural reconstruction. It's a big, or maybe I can say it's the biggest social network in mainland China now. And so just caused by such kind of social movements, and also caused by this kind of bridging urban and rural, is a big group. And our experiences became more and more influenced in the central policy. So nowadays, just like I mentioned in my speaking, the central governments now also set up the strategy. We are trying to alternate from the so-called capitalism development path, try to set up a kind of new path for such kind of indigenous population country like China. So we are not a kind of a colonized continent. We are indigenous continent. We need to have our own culture regeneration. So that is very much involved of the policy making, and then change the direction of this big population country from the capitalism into a kind of Chinese featured the socialism. That is, we need to have more young people to be the social entrepreneurs. We need to have more social enterprises for such kind of integration. So that is a kind of new change. Maybe the people would like to have such kind of exchange with us, just like our group several times come to Seoul to learn from Hansalin, from the local cooperatives, from your new experiences. So I hope we can have a more exchange. Thank you.
네, 감사합니다. 우리 윤태준 교수님 작년에 뵙고 오셔서 재작년에도 아마 홍성에도 가시고
Yes, we met you last year, and we went down to Hongsong area before as well. In Korea, there is this movement taking place related to a lot of youngsters going down to their country areas, their hometowns, and also if you look at our baby boomers, they are going down to the south and going to the countryside, and we have 25 local government providing very many collaboration programs to provide promotion for the fundamental collaboration and integration between rural and city areas.
지역을 연결하는
Yes, food is one of the media that can lead to more in-depth discussions related to circular economy, and we have a very in-depth explorations on that end. Thank you very much for your feedback.
사무총장.
And now, Mr. Salvatore, you have been waiting long, so thank you very much. You're the Secretary General of the Foundation of Italia Sociale, and the European Socio-Economic Institute also was one organization that you headed up previously. So you talked about the socio-economic organizations, how they will play a more important role, contributing to sustainable future of the community, in rebuilding resilience. So thank you for the remarks. So as we've heard earlier, we heard about the so-called donut economy. So it's about complementing or finding an alternative model to the existing economic model. It's not just a figment of our imagination, but there are actual case studies already that show that new models can be implemented. For social cooperatives or social economic organizations that are community-based as part of the donut model or the circular economic model, I think that this is just a very big movement and trend that we are seeing. And it's, of course, something that we are very interested in. Now, what are the shared values perhaps pursued by these cooperatives or the social economic organizations, if you think there are some shared values? In terms of the model, what is the mechanism? And then in terms of organization, are there some differences versus existing models? What are the pros and cons? In what set of circumstances do other models work better? Or which of those models do you think will work better? And lastly, in terms of Korea's social economy, the role of finance is a weak spot for Korea. I think Mr. Win Tae-jun may also want to comment about that later on. But community-based social finance, if you could make some comments about that topic, we would appreciate it. So those are 3 questions from my side. And then if there are any further questions, written in through the online channel, we'll bring them to your attention. So please go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So big and complex questions. And I was thinking to what Professor Wen said, and I'm in the same line. I believe that the combination of environmental issues and the social movement and the dimension coming from the social movement is a key factor in terms of approaching the future. So really, I don't see any difference. I see a convergence between all those different approaches as the donut economy, the circular economy, and the social economy. Of course, there is a difference in terms of scale. Donut economy, as well as circular economy, for instance, they speak a language that can and should affect any business, any public authority, all the civil society, from large company listed to the New York Stock Exchange to small community in rural area. The ambition of that vision is to create a movement of change that leads the greatest number of economic actors to embrace this approach, becoming champions of environmental and social responsibility. So the success of the donut economy, of the circular economy, depends on the ability to spread and become mainstream. It is an approach that indicates the direction to take if we do not want the planet and our societies to become unlivable. In this sense, is an approach that defines values in which all those who believe that the current development model is not sustainable can recognize themselves. So are the same values of the social economy. But I believe that this approach, the donut economy, the circular economy, do not enter into the distinction between economic forms according to their specific mission. And this is the difference. The social and solidarity economy, while sharing the same values, is placed in a different perspective because it doesn't only deal with the reasons why the transition is necessary, but also how these objectives can be achieved. So social economy is more about organizational forms of governance, model of relationships between stakeholders, and so on. Let me give you an example, just to clarify my thinking. A large multinational company can, and hopefully must, orient its activities in a more sustainable sense. For instance, with a new generation of products designed and manufactured with advanced criteria of circularity, with reduction of negative impacts on the environment, really good green products. These companies can adopt a strong circular economy strategy. But this doesn't mean necessarily that the company is also responsible from a social point of view. You can be a great green company and not treat your employees with dignity. Your products can be the greenest, but they may not be affordable by a large part of the poor population. The profits could be distributed only among investors rather than benefiting communities and general interest scopes. So what I mean is that an abstract example. So if you look concretely at the behavior of the largest companies, you will see that in recent years, we had many declarations of environmental and social responsibility. We had non-financial statements, social balance sheets with ESG criteria. This is a new corporate language. You have investors demanding compliance with these new criteria. Just think to the celebrated case of BlackRock. However, when the alternative is between the interest of the shareholders on one side and the interest of the stakeholders on the other side, even the most enlightened corporation has a natural tendency to give priority to investors. That's why I insist on this aspect, because I believe that intentions are not enough. We need more than just intentions. We need institutional forms, organizational constraints that favor the achievement of socially sustainable objectives. And social economy is precisely this, is a set of forms of enterprises, social enterprises, that are bound to give a priority to the social function over the maximization of profit. They have in the DNA the maximization of the social effect. Social economy organizations are driven by non-monetary motivations. As such, they are stakeholder-oriented rather than shareholder-oriented. They adopt democratic, inclusive governance models. They have a propensity to cooperation rather than to competition. So there is a structural difference that makes social economy more suited in order to achieve the objectives of the sustainable economy. One more point. You mentioned the point on finance. Of course, social economy needs finance. And in the social economy organizations, the choice of financial resources derives from the constraints resulting from the fact that these organizations are, by definition, not comparable to enterprises that attract capital, risky from the point of view of financial investors. The risk cannot be calculated purely in the terms used by the traditional financial intermediaries. Organizations belonging to the social economy sector should not apply the same logic used to evaluate an investment aimed at maximizing the economic return. Owing this specificity, social economy organizations can access sources of funding that traditional companies have more trouble tapping. For instance, internal sources of capitalization, facilitated by the constraint on profit distribution, as in the cooperatives, or resources coming from philanthropy, from donation, or collection of resources and capital in form of loans or equity coming from members or coming from stakeholders, and so forth. Of course, those organizations also have resources coming from revenues generated by the sale of goods and services, because they are companies and they are in the market and they sell goods. They have to generate profit, but the profit is not distributed to shareholders. It's reinvested in the organizations. Just concluding. Now, what we see is that there is a growth, as was mentioned by Professor Wentz, growth of social needs. There is a growth of the needs that social and solidarity economy organization can satisfy. And this means that those organizations need more finance, new way of financing itself with non-mainstream methods. There are many new activities that social organizations have started engaging in that are more capital intensive. For instance, all the activities related to urban renewal or waste management or the management of facilities for cultural activities or cultural heritage management or social housing and others. So more and more social enterprises, cooperatives have to cope with these more specialized and articulated needs. So they need more finance. This means that the scale of intervention called for the change in our societies requires social organization better equipped with new models and new tools capable of coping with a more massive demand for goods and services. Well, I believe that from a financial perspective, this means that in the next future, in the next few years, we have to develop new tools, adequate and accessible, with a blended approach, mixing different strategies. And this is the challenge for reinventing or inventing for the first time finance for the social good. Thank you.
네, 감사합니다.
Yes, thank you very much. I think we have actually run over our scheduled time, but this is a very interesting topic, very, very interesting. So please bear with us as we will take a few more minutes to have some more discussions. And there were some questions sent in through YouTube. For Professor Win Tae-jin.
소개드리면 지금 아까 도시와 농촌의 통합적 발전.
We talked about the urban and rural integration, and you pointed it out that it is very important. And I also quoted the important integration between rural and urban areas, and coexistence is very important. And so, for example, there can be direct trade of food taking place in urban and rural areas. And is it still maintained at that level, or what is going to be the future picture of that? So is there any possibility of expanding it further? And Mr. Salvatore, if you want to add to that, to this question, then please go ahead and do so as well. And what about in Italy? Well, in Korea, there is this plastic crisis taking place, and especially after the outbreak of the COVID-19. And in order to realize our circular economy with recycling and reusable resources, if you have any last word to add to that, then please do so. So first of all, Professor Wen, what is the urban and rural integration model that you're thinking about? And is there any case study that you would like to present to us as an example from China?
Okay, thank you for your question. You know that since the year 2005, there is a kind of very big movements in China in name of the new countryside construction. It's somehow learned from South Korea in 1970 or 1980s. And also that is a similar movements in Japan in 1980s. So, but it's happened in the new century in the year 2005 in China. The first, the Chinese central governments eliminated all the agricultural tax, means that all rural people have a no tax, and then they can have their small business. And that is mobilize a lot of small investments from the city flow into the countryside. And meanwhile, the governments, not only central but also local, they have done a lot of public investments for improve the infrastructure construction in countryside. And during these 15 years, nowadays we have many trillions investments from the government's bonds and also the state banks went down to the countryside for besides 5 communication. The first is pavement road, and then pipe water, and then electricity, and the gas, and also the internet. So these are 5 big construction nowadays spread in almost every natural village. And it's keep going to have a large investments means that everybody can be very easier to have their business in even mountain area in small village. So that is absorb a lot of surplus capital in the urban area. You know that it's a very serious problem that people have money in city, but they have no space to invest. It means because that almost all of this business in city has been full of the investors. So, but in countryside, we still have a large amount of the natural resources. We have a lot of productions we need to invest. So that is give a chance to this middle class, to these small investors, and even to these young people. They all can create their small business in countryside. That is not just for the business, not for the economy, but also for a kind of social change. Means that you can bridging the rural and the urban to make the two part of the group more together and then they can have their new creatives. So that is why I'm very much emphasize these 10 years since the 2005 new countryside construction movements started. And nowadays in the year 2017, the rural revitalization as a new strategy became the key point of the whole of the discussions, and means that change from the globalization to the localization. And that is also we learned a lot from Korea, from Japan, even from Chinese Taiwan, and then from another developing countries. And then we think that we cannot directly duplicate the centric policies and the strategies. We need to have the new change in such kind of indigenous population country. We may have a new direction. We may have a new life. That is not by Western media to report, but inside we have many small social movements and big social movements. We carry out what we do need to do. So that is a kind of new trends, new phenomena nowadays, very popular in mainland China. So I cannot say how big is the number, but it's became a kind of social events. So maybe that when we finish this COVID-19, and then people can easy to move, and then you may come to China to see something. And I hope that, because that I'm not good at English speaking, so I cannot fully to give you a fully picture. And I just summarize some points. So anyway, it's somehow we learned from you, from Korea. And then that is not only new countryside construction, but also our social movements. So it's you are somehow the model for our change in China. So that's the chance for me to say thank you very much to Korean people. Thank you.
네, 감사드립니다.
Yes, thank you. Again, we are pressed for time, but China, of course, is a huge country, and China, to take care of everything within just the city setting, that could represent a big disaster, not only for China, but the entire world. So the eco-transition, the alternative ecosystem that you proposed just now, I think will be very important going forward. Mr. Salvatore, what about Italy? You are different from the Chinese story. The third sector actually has a longer history as part of Europe. So skilled production, for example, I remember reading something about that. So in connection with the circular economy, the role of social economy and some achieved results, if you want to take a few moments to introduce some case studies. I think you may have already mentioned, but if you have any further to add, please go ahead.
Yeah, just a few remarks. In the last 15 years, Italy went through two big economic and social crises, the 2008 crisis and now COVID-19. In both cases, what happened was that we observed that the traditional economy, so traditional enterprises, for-profit enterprises, during the crisis have fired people, have reduced their activities. They have create conditions in order to save the interest of investors and capital, not the interest of workers and community. On the contrary, during both crises, 2008 and today COVID-19, social economic organizations did exactly the opposite. So they have kept the occupation, they have created new jobs in many new fields. They have found solution to new demands, social demands. Today, we do have in Italy more or less 1 person out of 10, 1 worker out of 10 that is an employee of a social economy organization. So 10% of the occupation rate in Italy is absorbed by social economy organization. And those people are serving more or less the 30%, 30, of the population in many different fields, from education to healthcare, from social agriculture, so a kind of agriculture that is focused on giving opportunity to young people or people with disability, people that couldn't find easily a job. Social agriculture is an increasing phenomenon in Italy. So a way to create new jobs for weak people, to what we call community enterprises. Community enterprises are a new phenomenon that exploded, boomed in the last 10 years, when we saw that at least 20% of the country in the mountain areas, in the hilly areas, were under threat of losing population because people moved to big cities. So we had thousands of villages in Italy that are almost empty. But in these last 10, 15 years, in those villages, we observed the creation of a new kind of enterprises that we call community cooperatives, that try to create economic conditions for the people, especially young people, to stay, to remain in the villages. Exactly as in China, same kind of phenomenon. So all these makes social economy in Italy an important pillar for the development from the social and economic point of view. And among the new domains, the environmental issues are a priority. We have many new social enterprises working in the circular economy field, because it's a field that demands social innovation more than technological innovation, demands new social solutions, a new kind of relationship between users and producers. So there are many domains where the capacity of a social economy to create, to generate new jobs has been the real resilience factor for Italy in the last 15 years across 2 big crises. And this is, the hope that we have also for the future, to regenerate our economic and social fabric through the spreading of this kind of social enterprises in different forms. So this is the trend that we see, and this is something that we can observe also in other European countries. Maybe Italy has moved first because in Italy the state is weaker than in other countries.
예, 감사합니다.
Yes, thank you very much. And with that, we will have to conclude this session. We heard about the donut economics, and then we talked about the circular economy, and then the social economy, what kind of role social economic organizations could play in that context. And then we heard about the space of our cities, regions, a community, how the people can be bridged, and what kind of activities can serve as resilience in the future. In terms of transition, I think we need change across multiple dimensions. But I think the local communities are the starting point for that broad change. Circular economy and also the concept of donut economy, it starts with a product or a company or a sector, and then all of a nation's economy and also international relations as well. I think step by step we can see change introduced step by step. And in the presentations we heard in terms of food or agriculture, circular economy there, and also energy, care, services, how it's about circular economy in the local context, not the global. So circular recycling, regeneration of resources, jobs and income. I think that was all inclusive in the concepts that we heard. In Korea, we're also having intense discussions about local community-based circular economy. So your presentations were very helpful. So the 4 presentations that we have heard today in terms of city-based transition, I think that will be very helpful as Seoul and many other cities in Korea look to Europe and other countries for inspiration as we seek transition.
유럽의 이탈리아에 또 소개돼서
Yes, and we hope that in the future, the Korean cases and Korean examples can be exported to China and Italy as well as around the world. And so it has been sharing wisdom for us. And based on your experiences, you have been sharing a very good insight with us. So I would like to thank you for that. Thank you very much. With this, I would like to end the first session.
네, 토론을 통해서 또 소중한
We were able to hear in-depth discussions and question and answer of the speakers. Thank you very much for all our speakers. And also, I would like to thank Professor Chung Kwon-hwa for your great moderation as well.
혼자만이 이룰 수 있는 것이
Transition is something that cannot be done by one force only.
이렇게 토론할 수 있다는 것만으로도
Therefore, I believe that it is important for us to have this kind of a sharing opportunity with a lot of discussions. With this, we will conclude the keynote session. However, 2020 Seoul Innovation Week starts now. Starting with Transition Session 1, which will begin shortly at 2 p.m. today, we are going to have a total of 4 transition sessions, 2 sharing sessions, and 1 special session. You can access the event through the official YouTube channel of Seoul City, and I hope that more people will participate in these events to hear, think, and share the stories of scholars about the times of crisis and urban transformation.
Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of a keynote session, and starting from convergence session 1 at 2 p.m., there will be a total of 4 convergence sessions and 2 sharing sessions and a special session. You can join us through the official YouTube channel of Seoul Metropolitan Government. And we hope that more people will be with us to listen to and share the stories of the scholars about the time of a crisis and the transformation of cities. 네, 지금까지 함께해 주신 여러분 진심으로 감사드립니다. 아나운서 박선영이었습니다. Thank you very much. We'll be back soon.